I will share with you this. Growing up, I never wanted to go into business. It was certainly not my thing, and it was not. In fact, as a young teenager, my big dream was to be Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, which I haven't given up yet, but we'll see. But it was a childhood teenage dream, and so I was always attracted to, serving Israel on the international stage, speaking for Israel in international forums. This was always what inspired me. And after my military service, I went to Harvard to get my undergraduate degree, and I actually went to do so not because I wanted to leave Israel or to start a different career. I actually thought that if I am to serve Israel one day, this is where, the kind of education I should get, and I should learn to speak English well, and so forth. And then what happened is I graduated, and nothing happened. And reflecting on that moment, I wrote 10 years later at the Harvard Crimson, and you can still find it if you Google, a piece called The Red Carpet Syndrome. And what I shared is this moment that a lot of kids today think that if they, and it was also true for me, if you go around checking the boxes, you do the right things. You go to the right school, you get the good grades, you study the right things. Well, then someone at one point will roll out the red carpet because you're just so wonderful. And I certainly had that syndrome. And I don't know that I consciously thought so, but I think certainly as I was sitting at the commencement ceremony, I was wondering why the Israeli Prime Minister's office had not picked up the phone to say, we're so happy you're graduating. For 4 years we were waiting here. Nothing, how soon can you come? And the thing is that I think a lot of my colleagues, a lot of my friends also had the red carpet syndrome because nothing else would explain why out of a class of 1,600 graduates, 800 were applying to investment banks and consulting firms. I can assure you that I don't think that 800 teenagers dreamt of being consultants and investment bankers. I doubt that anyone knew what a consultant is when they were growing up. But what happens, you expect the red carpet, you ticked all the right boxes, and the only ones who are rolling out the red carpet for you are the investment banks and the consulting firms. They come to campus, they wine and dine you, they try to convince you to join them. So since the Prime Minister's office is not calling, but they are, well, you find 800 out of a graduating class of 1,600 applying to jobs that if they were in an empty space, they would not have chosen. But they are the ones that roll out the red carpet, and you think you should be rolled the red carpet for, so you go for them. And granted, there are worse things to do than go work for McKinsey after you graduate from Harvard, but my heart was not in it, and it's not what I wanted to do, but it was kind of, okay, it's not bad, and seriously, the Prime Minister's office is not calling, so I'll do this. And then I came back to Israel and worked in venture capital, but again, my heart was not in it. I ran the Excel spreadsheets like anyone, and I was good at it and fine, but it's not really what I wanted to be doing. And, my 30th birthday was approaching, and there's something that happens when, at least when I turn 30, I don't know about you guys, but you realize that the 20s of being the person with a promising future are about to end, and you kind of need to begin to deliver on the fact that you should have a promising future. And I certainly felt a rising element of pressure as a result of that. So what did I do? I went to business school. Why did I go to business school? I think in today's world, at least for me, I can tell you, I can't say for anyone, but business school seems to be the most advanced degree you can take if you still don't know what you're going to do with your life. So it's still considered respectable and you're advancing, but you still have no clue what you're going to do. So that's what I did. I went to MBA at INSEAD in France, which was I always loved France. I wanted to spend a year there. It was really just a big excuse to spend a year there and to figure out what I was going to do. And the thing about the credit of INSEAD, and I've been told by students that they continue to do it to this day, they realize that the average age there is 29, so they realize that a lot of the people who come to INSEAD really are wondering about what they're going to do with their future. So they do a lot of these sessions and kind of meetings and discussions to think about your future. And one of them was with the computer, of all things. And, you know, we had to answer lots and lots and lots of questions. And I still keep what the computer told me because it's quite remarkable what the computer had to say. After I filled all the questions, the computer said the following. Said, your interest in business is, colon, oh, hi, מה נשמע?
Hi, good morning.
So it said, your interest in business is, colon, medium. And I thought, okay, not incredibly helpful. So, you know, if it would have said high, I would have known it. If it would have said low, you know, at least I would have known something medium. But then it said the following, and it's quite poetic for a computer to say that. It said, what you want to do is to have impact through words and ideas. And I can think of no better description of what I love to do and what I do and what I would like to do with my life. And it is quite remarkable that it all came on a one-page printout. So, oddly enough, I graduated business school, I came back to Israel, and I decided not to go into business. I took whatever savings I had left, divided them into 12, went back to live with my parents, and this was my budget for every month, and I gave myself a year to figure out what's next, and clearly for me what's next was going to be politics. And why? Because as soon as I realized that I want to do something else, the way for me to figure out what it is was to go back to the time that I was a teenager. There's something about being a teenager that you're much more confident and you kind of have a sense of what you want to do when you're not yet subject to many pressures. And I was like, okay, I wanted to be Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. All people, or many of the people who did this job, well, they were in politics. I'd like to be foreign minister one day. That's in politics. So I guess I have to look into this politics thing. And I grew up in a place, you know, told me that politics is not a place for a nice girl. And I was like, okay, I have to see that for myself. Is it really so awful? And that's basically when I began my process. I started volunteering with politicians, and from there I had some jobs and ultimately could run for office. So it was really about this moment of kind of realizing that it's, you know, people tell you it's never too late, but it's a bit of a lie. There is a point where it gets harder and harder to change course, to go in a different direction. And for me, it really came with that sense of being 30 and having spent by that time about 5 years in business and realizing that my heart was never in it. And having had the benefit of a place that was actually willing to encourage that soul search.